fresh off of a Sunday night game that saw the Detroit Lions finally get that 100-yard rusher they've been looking for. And what do you know? They won the game. So we're going to talk a little bit about whether running the ball and stopping the run is really that important for winning football games. I'm George Chahrouri alongside Eric Eager, and we're of course brought to you by mybookie.ag. It is the place you need to go to put all the good information you can get from PFF and a PFF Elite subscription to good use. MyBookie.ag offers all the different bet types you could possibly want. They have in-game live betting. They have great customer service to make it easy to cash out. We use them, we love them, and you should too. Use promo code PFF to get a dollar-for-dollar match on your first deposit. PFF plus mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid. All right, Eric. Carry on my wayward son. Kerryon Johnson got that 100-yard game, and I think that game is really indicative of what often happens, which is you look at the numbers at the end of the game, you look at who won, and you say, oh, the team that won ran the ball really well. And because of the way football originated, because of all the things that have sort of been passed down to us, we just are naturally inclined to say that running the ball really matters in these situations. But I think there's a little bit of evidence on the other side.
Yeah, so football, is a physical game. Running the football is the more physical of the two. Passing seems sort of cheap, right? And when a team is ahead, we have a positive feeling about them, and then the running game being good sort of reinforces that throughout the game. And so I think, but does it bear over the long haul? And I think the answer in this case is a bit mixed, right? So, for example, the three teams this season that have been added positive expected value in the run game offensively have all been pretty good. Los Angeles, Carolina, Denver, but there's ways to explain around that, right? The fact that the Los Angeles Rams are 3-0 likely because they've been successful on almost 2/3 of their passing downs, not that they've been successful on half of their running downs.
Yeah, you look at that and you're talking about expected points added, which is basically saying on a play, are you improving your probability of scoring? Yep. And they are doing that running the ball. But the difference between how much more they do that when throwing is drastic. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone that says the Rams are maybe Super Bowl favorites at this moment because of the run game, right? It's because of Sean McVay, Jared Goff, and that defense that, if they stay healthy, is really impressive. The other two teams on this list in terms of generating positive expected points added, improving their chances of scoring when running, are Carolina and Denver. And I think both of these are really interesting.
Yeah, so Carolina's doing it in a conventional way for them, but a non-conventional way with respect to the league. Cam Newton is averaging 5 yards a carry, 136 yards on the ground, and we know that designed run plays to the quarterback are actually a positive expected value, positive expected points added play. And so they're doing it in a way that I don't think most teams can replicate, right? And for Denver, it's similar, although I think it's more unstable. Emmanuel Sanders had a 35-yard touchdown run from the wide receiver position. I think that's sort of skewing the numbers there. They've struggled as a pass offense, and thus far, an offensive team as well. So, I still think the narrative of this turning around and handing the ball to a running back and profiting that way thus far has not bared out in the numbers in 2018.
The interesting thing is, we're saying, look, they're generating positive EPA, but Carolina far ahead of those other two teams in terms of doing it. And if you were to say which of these teams are you most bullish on going forward, it would be
the Rams.
The Rams, and the Rams are the bottom of that list. They are by far the worst in terms of those three at actually generating expected points added. What you touched on there at the end is the important part. So yes, the Lions ran the ball well.
Yep.
They were ahead in that game. Yep. And the Patriots made a very distinct decision. They said, look, we're really afraid of how good these Lions receivers are. We are going to play the pass. We are going to let you run the ball. And so I think this leads us to the next question, which is, does stopping the run really matter that much?
Yeah, in a league where passing the football on a yards per play and an expected points added perspective is a better play, I think allowing runs, if you're going to make that decision, is a positive thing. So there are 6 teams here who have allowed a positive expected points added against the run, and they are the Los Angeles Rams, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Detroit Lions, the Atlanta Falcons, the Washington Redskins, and the Cincinnati Bengals. The combined record of those teams so far this season is 12-6.
That's good, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is it's a strategic decision that oftentimes feels unsavory. So I talk about this a lot. I feel like you just don't want to see another team run for 4 or more yards against you. It sort of like hurts your humanity. But it's actually a smart decision, and it's a decision that keeps the other team from potentially hurting you with the pass. And the pass is more likely to create those big plays, right? Those kind of back-breaking plays. And so I think if you are preparing a defense to be successful, this is actually a really smart strategy, and one that I think we're going to see more teams use. I think the Packers have been at the forefront in terms of using a lot of defensive backs instead of guys that are more traditionally stopping the run. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, look, we had 6 people on this list right now. I wouldn't be surprised if that grows as we move on.
Yeah, so the reason these teams are good is not this statistic, right? It's the Rams have the league's best pass defense in terms of EPA, right? The Chiefs have the league's best passing offense in terms of EPA. So, in terms of, the Rams, they can give up, 3-4 yards on first down, but then they're locking the door on second and third down. The Chiefs are so far ahead that these teams are trying to come back on them running the football, and as the Niners found out on Sunday, that just doesn't work, right? So, same thing, Washington is in the top half of the league in terms of passing defense. So that's where you want to be good. Run defense, again, it doesn't feel very good. It doesn't, from a fan's perspective, from a team's perspective. But in terms of winning games, it's a pretty sub-dominant variable there. Yeah,
and we bring it back to that Lions game, and they're getting that 100-yard rusher, Matt Stafford. He had a clean pocket more than 80% of the time, 120 pass rating throwing from a clean pocket. That had to help somewhat, right? Just a little bit. So I think it's important to always see both sides, and particularly when you're thinking cause and effect. What came first, right? The chicken or the run game? It's important to remember that it's possible that you can be successful at running and it not necessarily be the reason that you're successful. I think that's a hugely important thing to keep in mind. And look, we always keep that in mind too when we're looking at something, right? We never want to jump to too many conclusions, but every time we try to predict things, whether it's wins at the end of the season, whether it's the spread at the end of the game, passing and pass defense always comes out on top, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and Detroit won on Sunday night because they stopped Tom Brady, right? That was reason number one.
You sure about that?
Yeah, and Tom Brady is the fulcrum of what happens in those games, and if you can stop him, it doesn't really matter, I guess, what Kerryon Johnson does on the back end.
Though, good for Kerryon Johnson. I want to see him stick around because with a name like Kerryon Johnson, we hope to see him playing. Remember, you can put all of the information that you get here to good use by checking out mybookie.ag, and of course, grab yourself a PFF Elite subscription to get all of the good data that we present to you. We'll see you guys later.